Hey, I want to take you on a quick tour through some Final Cut 10 stuff that I've been doing. Actually, just some pretty basic run-of-the-mill kind of color correction stuff. Color grading if you want to charge more money. You know, a lot of stuff I work on is very proprietary and NDA, and I don't really get to talk about it publicly, but here's something from a shoot we did recently, just kind of innocuous, and there's some neat things that you can do with this shot. So I know it was shot with a 5D3. I can tell by the lens distortion it was probably the 16 to 35 lens that we have. But looking at it, you know, I'm thinking, you know, I'm sure we can do something to kind of punch this up a little bit. So if you don't have it open yet, you want to come down here to this little guy. It's the inspector tool, and that brings up your inspector. Now in here, you can adjust the video and the audio and the metadata for any individual clip. But what we're going to be dealing with is the video, and coming right down here to color. If you don't see the controls, you want to click, if you hover over right here, there's all these little show and hides that come up. So I'm going to show the color correction controls. Now there's the automatic balance. I never use it. The match color I've used on occasion, but the main thing is just this this color correction thing. And you can add some masks, a color mask and a shape mask, which we're not going to do yet. But right here, this little arrow, when I click on that, this stuff slides in. And this is the color board. The color board has 3 tabs. There's the color, saturation, and exposure. And I'll point out down here, right down here, this little presets, that gets you into some kind of pre-built looks that you can mess with. We're not going to deal with that right now. We're going to go to exposure. And the first thing we're going to do with this particular shot is we're going to pull the blacks down. Now see, under exposure, I have 4 controls. I have a global control, which is just overall almost like, you know, brightness or iris. But then I have controls for the shadows, the mids or the gamma, and the highlights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull the blacks down a little bit. You'll notice as I do that, look at this corner right here. Just look at how much just more character goes into it. Just pulling it down like, you know, 5-10%, something like that. And then we're going to pump the mids up just a little bit to put some brightness back into the shot. Now, under saturation, I'm going to go to the global puck, because if you think about it, really the only color that's in this is green. Now there's a pale gray sky. We'll get to that in a second. But if I take the global saturation and just turn it up, you'll see I can get some green. I can really kind of pop the green in all the shrubbery and the bushes, but I still don't have really much in the sky. So we're going to do that separately. What I'm going to do is I'm going to step back out here. Unfortunately, got to come out here to audition whether what this looks like, you know, sort of before and after, off and on. We're kind of getting there. The green looks a lot nicer. And then besides doing this individual thing, as I add more color correctors, I can also come up here and sort of globally turn them all off and on. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to add another color corrector right here. I'm just going to tink that guy on right there. Now I get another color corrector. Now I mentioned the masks earlier. We're going to do what's called a color mask. So by picking this little eyedropper, I now get to come over here and pick a color from the program. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click here, and as I start to drag, you can see I'm adding more and more of the sky, and I just want to come down. Whoops! Now see that? I've gone too far because I've started to add the green. So I'm going to go like that, and I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and then I can add a little more in there. So that pretty much got the sky pretty good there. And then this little guy softens the edge of anything that you have grabbed. Now we're not really seeing that, but I can just tell you, you know, you pop this up about 30-40%, maybe a little less. And that's going to work out good for you. Now, what do I do with that mask? I have the mask. Well, the mask helps us with this color grade here. So I click on this little guy here, go to saturation. Now imagine I made that mask, that color mask. Now anything that I do only happens inside that mask. So I'm going to go to the saturation, and I'm going to just go. Actually, you know what? Let's do this with we're going to pump up the mids. You see the sky getting more blue? And then we're going to do the highs. And now we're getting a lot more blue into our sky. Now I'm going to step out, and let's look at the sky before and after, much nicer. the greens before and after, and then the global before and after. Okay, we're really getting there. This is kind of cool. Now, it's important. I mentioned earlier that that when I add the shape, the color mask, I'm only affecting what's in that mask. But if you notice, by adding the color mask, I also get these two buttons down here, inside and outside. Now, anytime you add one of the masks, you get the inside and the outside. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look. We're going to add a third color corrector. Boom, boom, boom. I don't know. I think you can just keep adding these. I'm not sure. But instead of adding a color mask, we're going to add what's called a shape mask. Now, once I do that, I get this on-screen display, and there's 7 controls here that are important. You can kind of see the dots here, 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 and here. So that's my roundness, or actually my circle oval control. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up like this. I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to pull it out to here. Now that's 4 controls. The 5th control is this guy here. That's the level of feathering. So I'm going to feather that out. I'm going to pull this up a little more. I said there was 7 controls. That's 5. Number 6 is this little guy. That's to rotate my oval now. We're going to leave it where it was pretty much. And then the 7th control is this little guy. Very cool little control. I like this. When I pull this out, it makes my oval more square, kind of a rounded, cornered thing. But anyway, we're going to keep it kind of ovally. And I mentioned before when we did the color mask, we affected the saturation inside the mask. Now on color corrector number 3 with the shape mask, we're going to go into here, and instead of affecting what's inside the mask, we're going to affect what's outside the mask. So I click that little guy, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to add a little vignette to our corners here. So under exposure, I'm going to take and pull this down. Here, if I overdo it, you can kind of see what's going on there. Maybe I don't want to do quite so much there. I want to do a little more in the mids. And we can see it in the sky here, and we're kind of drawing attention away from this brightness down here. And what does this do? That might be a little too much. But you can see I can also, oh, look at that, an 8th control. I can also pick this up. So maybe I don't want to do quite so much in the sky, or maybe I want to do more in the sky. At any rate, I'm probably going to place this about there. And now we're done. So if I step out here, let's go vignette off and on. We're going to turn that off. The sky off and on. And the overall punch, or the greens. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And there is before and after. Before and after. I got to tell you, I wasn't crazy about the color board at first, but learning how these masks work, I really kind of dig the color corrector here. I still wish I had the eyedropper from the 3-way color corrector, but I'm hoping somebody's gonna develop that for us later.